Hi, room 7 and room 13. All right, it's Miss Land, and we are getting set for our 15th reading from Pippi Longstockings. Pippi Longstockings. Oh, can you see it? There you go. Pippi Longstockings by Astrid Lindgren. It's our 15th reading. All right, let's get started. Where did we leave off? Oh yeah, and this looks different behind me because I'm sitting out on my balcony right now. You can hear the birds chirping, which is lovely. It's another beautiful morning. Okay. Where did we leave off? Oh, right. They are at the coffee party, and Pippi had poured sugar all over the floor. Oh my goodness, and she'd eaten the cream pie. Miss Lindgren didn't know she ate the cream pie. She thought it made her guests happy. Okay, let's recap the last paragraph here. At that moment, Miss Lindgren came in, and when she saw the sugar all over the floor, she took Pippi firmly by the arm and led her over to the sofa to Tommy and Annika. Then she went over to the ladies and invited them to have more coffee. That the cream pie had disappeared only made her happy, because she thought the ladies had liked it so much that they had eaten it all. Pippi, Tommy, and Annika sat talking quietly on the sofa. The fire crackled on the hearth. The ladies drank their coffee, and all was quiet and peaceful again. And so, as so often happens at coffee parties, the ladies began to talk about their problems. Oh gosh. Apparently, they had not been able to have very good hired help, for they were not at all satisfied with them, and they agreed that it really was better not to have any maids at all. Did you know what they're talking about? So this is clearly a family that has lots of money, because they have people. Hired help means people coming in to do their cooking and their washing, and now they're sitting there at this coffee party complaining about their hired help. It was much more satisfactory, they discussed, to just do things by oneself, because then at least you knew that things were done right. Pippi sat on the sofa listening, and after the ladies had been talking a while, she said, "Once my grandmother had a servant named Malene. She had blisters on her feet, but otherwise there was nothing wrong with her. The only annoying thing was that as soon as company came, she would rush at them and bite their legs. And bark. Oh, how she would bark. You could hear it all through the neighborhood, but it was only because she was playful." Boys and girls, is Pippi talking about the same kind of hired help? I don't think so. Bark? She's talking about a dog. This is another one of Pippi's stories. Only, of course, strangers didn't always understand that. The dean's wife, an elderly woman, came to see grandmother once soon after Malene first came. And when Malene came dashing at her and bit her in the ankle, the dean's wife screamed so loudly that it scared Malene, so that her teeth clamped together and she couldn't get them apart. There she sat, stuck to the dean's wife's ankles until that Friday. And grandmother had to peel the potatoes herself. But at least it was well done. She peeled so well that when she was done, there were no potatoes left, only peelings. But after that Friday, the dean's wife never came to call on grandmother again. She just never could take a joke. And poor Malene, who was always so good-natured and happy, though for that matter she was a little touchy at times, there's no denying that. Once, when grandmother poked a fork in her ear, she howled all day. Pippi looked around and smiled pleasantly. Yes, that was Malene for you, she said, and she twiddled her thumbs. Now, the ladies acted as if they'd heard nothing from Pippi and continued to talk. "If my Rosa were only clean," said Miss Bergen, "then maybe I could keep her. But she is a regular slob." "Say, you ought to have seen Malene," Pippi interrupted. Melaine was so outrageously dirty that it was a joy to see her, Grandmother had said. For the longest time, Grandmother thought she had a very dirty complexion, but honest and true, it was nothing but soil that wouldn't wash off. And once, at a market at the city hotel, she got first prize for dirt under her nails. Mercy me, how dirty that girl was, said Pippi happily. Miss Settergren looked at her sternly. Can you imagine, said Miss Greenberg, the other evening when Britta was going out, she borrowed my blue satin dress without even asking. Isn't that dreadful? Yes, indeed, said Pippi. She certainly seems to be cut from the same piece of cloth as Melaine, from what you say. Grandmother had a pink undershirt that she was especially fond of, but the worst of it was that Melaine liked it too. And every morning Grandmother and Melaine argued about who was going to wear the undershirt. At least they decided it would be fair to take turns and each wear it every other day. But imagine how tricky Melaine could be. Sometimes she'd come running in when it wasn't her turn at all and say, "No mashed turnip today if I can't wear the pink woolen undershirt." Well, what was Grandmother to do? Mashed turnip was her favorite dish. There was nothing for it but to give Melaine the shirt. As soon as Melaine got the shirt, she went out into the kitchen, as nice as could be, and began to mash turnip so that it spattered all over the walls. Now, with that part of the story, there was silence from the ladies for a little while. And then Miss Alexanderson said, "I'm not absolutely certain, but I strongly suspect that my Helita steals. In fact, I've noticed that things are disappearing." "Well, Melaine," began Pippi, but Miss Settergren interrupted. "Children," she said decidedly, "go upstairs to the nursery immediately." "Yes, but I was only going to tell that Melaine stole too," said Pippi, "like a raven. Everything she could lay her hands on. She used to get up in the middle of the night and steal. Otherwise, she couldn't sleep well. She said once she stole Grandmother's piano and tucked it into her own top bureau drawer. She was very clever with her hands, Grandmother said. Tommy and Annika took hold of Pippi and pulled her out of the room and up the stairs to the nursery. The ladies began on their third cups of coffee. And Miss Settergren said, "It's not that I want to complain about my Ella, but she does break a lot of my china." A red head appeared over the stair rail. "Speaking of Melaine," said Pippi, "maybe you were wondering if she used to break my china? Well, she did. She set apart 1 day a week just to break china. It was Tuesday, Grandmother said, as early as 5 o'clock on a Tuesday morning, and you could hear this jewel of a maid in the kitchen breaking china. She began with the coffee cups and the glasses and the little things like that, and then went on to the soup bowls and the dinner plates. She finished with the platters and the soup tureens. Oh, there was such a crash bang in the kitchen all morning that it really was a joy to hear," Grandmother had said. And if Melaine had any spare time in the late afternoon, well, she would go into the drawing room with a little hammer and knock down the antique East Indian plates that were hanging on the walls. Grandmother bought new china every Wednesday, just so Melaine could smash it, said Pippi, and disappeared up the stairs as quickly as a jack-in-the-box. But now Miss Settergren's patient had come to an end. She ran up the stairs, into the nursery, and right up to Pippi, who had just begun to teach Tommy to stand on his head. "You must never come here again," said Miss Settergren, "if you can't behave any better than this." Pippi looked at her in astonishment, and her eyes began to fill with tears. "Oh, that's just what I was afraid of," she said. that I couldn't behave properly. It's no use to try. I'll never learn. I should have stayed on the ocean. She curtsied to Miss Settergren, said goodbye to Tommy and Annika, and went slowly down the stairs. Now, the ladies were getting ready to go home too. Pippi sat down in the hall near the shelf where the rubber boots were kept and watched the ladies putting on their hats and their coats. "Too bad you don't like your maids," said she. "You should have one like my Melaine. Grandmother always said there was nobody like her. Imagine one Christmas when Melaine was going to serve a little roast pig. Do you know what she did? She had read in the cookbook that roast pig must be served with frilled paper in the ears and an apple in the mouth. But poor Melaine didn't understand that it was the pig who was supposed to have the apple. You should have seen her when she came in on Christmas Eve with her best apron on and a big Granny Smith apple in her mouth. 'Oh, Melaine, you're crazy,' Grandmother had said to her, and Melaine couldn't say a word in her own defense. She could only wiggle her ears until the frilled paper rustled. To be sure, she tried to say something, but it just sounded like blub, blub, blub. And, of course, she couldn't bite people in the leg, as she usually did, and it would be a day when there was a lot of company. Poor little Melaine, it wasn't a very happy Christmas Eve for her, said Pippi sadly. She had to get that other story in. Now the ladies were dressed and said a last goodbye to Miss Settergren, and Pippi ran up to her and whispered, "Oh, forgive me, because I couldn't behave myself. Goodbye." Then she put on her large hat and followed the ladies out. Outside the gate, they all parted ways. Pippi went towards Villa Villacula, and the ladies in the other direction. When they had gone a little way, they heard someone panting behind them. And it was Pippi, who had come racing back. What's she gonna do? "Oh, ladies, you can't imagine that Grandmother mourned or was sad when she lost Melaine. Just think, one Tuesday morning when Melaine had time to break only about a dozen teacups, she ran away and went to herself that day. She wasn't used to it, poor thing, and she got blisters all over her hands. She never saw Melaine again, and that was a shame because she was such an excellent maid," Grandmother said. Now Pippi left, and the ladies, they hurried on, but when they had gone a couple of 100 feet, they heard Pippi from afar off yelling at the top of her lungs, "She never swept under the beds." All right, boys and girls, that is the end of Pippi Goes to a Coffee Party. And the next reading will start chapter 10, which is called, do you want a preview? Well, chapter 10 is called Pippi Acts as a Lifesaver. So that will be for our reading tomorrow. Have a great day.